If you guys are looking to get better at Madden 25, you have come to the right place. Today we're going to talk about 25 tips you can implement to become a better Madden player. With that being said, let's dive right into the video.
All right, guys, we got this. Let's go. Double leg, triple E. Close X, go. On one. Ready? Hey.
What's up everyone, it's Pick'em with HuddleGG, and we are beyond excited that Madden 25 is here, and to kick off this year's release, we're going to be going over 25 tips to help you get better at Madden 25. So with that being said, let's not waste any more time and dive right into these, first starting off with our settings, and you can navigate to the settings tab from your home screen, and these are very important, but it's something that people overlook a bunch. Now under the game options tab at the top, we want to scroll down until we get to gameplay helpers. Now under this section, we're going to talk about a few different settings. The first being auto flip defensive play call. Now we want to have that on for the most part because this is going to make sure that our defense aligns appropriately to the offensive formation. So for instance, if your offense comes out with 3 receivers set and we come out in a nickel package where we have 1 slot cornerback, this is going to make sure that it flips the play to align that slot cornerback to the 3 receiver side. So if you are playing defense and you want to make sure that you have your alignment correct, you do want to have auto flip defensive play call on. With defensive ball hawk here with the second setting, we also want to have this on, and this is actually going to be one of the few settings that we use where we actually want the AI to kick in and help us out a little bit with our user. And what this is going to do is it's going to help when we're trying to get those interceptions down the field in those one-on-one jump ball situations. It's going to help our DB play a little bit more aggressively and just help you force those much needed turnovers throughout the game. The next one is going to be defensive heat seeker assist. This one we're going to have off. This is what we were just talking about. We don't always want the AI taking over for our user. This is something that will kind of try to steer your defensive player into making a tackle, but we want that to be our responsibility as the user. We don't want the computer to decide the pursuit angle. We want to do that as a user. So we want to have this off, and same thing with defensive switch assist. This is something else that we want to have off. What this is going to do is as soon as you switch on to a new player, this will briefly take control of your player and put you in the spot which they think is the correct spot. But again, we don't want to give away our user ability, so we're going to have this setting turned off as well. The other group of settings that we want to look at before we hop into game is going to be our passing mechanics, and this can also be found under the game options tab in the settings menu. Now, these for the most part are a personal preference, and they are something that you can adjust based off of your play style, but we are going to highly recommend a passing type specifically, and that's going to be placement and accuracy. Now you have 3 options here. You have placement and accuracy, classic, and placement. The reason we like placement and accuracy is because it gives you the most control on the accuracy of your passes based off the timing of your meter. So if you time your meter correctly when throwing the ball, you can get yourself a perfect pass, and we'll actually show you how to do that in today's video. So with this passing type, although it is a personal preference and it's not guaranteed to be the best for everybody, we do recommend placement and accuracy if you can make it work for you. Now, the next one's passing slowdown. This is something that is only for offline players. Doesn't really matter if it is on or off. Then the last 2 here we're going to talk about is going to be pass lead increase and reticle speed. And I cannot stress enough, these 2 are a personal preference based off of your playstyle. If someone is telling you that there are best settings for this and there's no other options, do not believe them. They are making that up because there are certain throws that they make that you might not make where their settings work a little bit better for them. But this is something you do want to play around with. You have the option for small, medium, and large here, and then you can go between 1 and 20 on the reticle speed. Again, try out different settings in these specific 2 spots to see what fits your offensive playstyle better and what you're most comfortable with. Now, when you're using placement and accuracy and you go to throw a pass, you'll see the meter pop up with 2 white lines towards the end, and if you release the throw in between these 2 lines, the pass meter will turn blue and it will grant you a perfect accuracy pass. One of the best things EA added to both college football and Madden this year is the ability to use custom stems on offense. Now if you see this route to the left side of the screen, we can move this curl route to whatever depth we want on the field, and this really opens up things on the offensive side of the ball. Now to use this mechanic, you want to push Y, the receiver icon, then you want to hold the left bumper. Now while we're holding the left bumper, you have a few ways you can move that route. If you tap the left stick up or down, you can move it in 1-yard increments, and then if you tap the D-pad up or down, you can move it in 5-yard increments. Now if you do want to move this route very quickly, you can just hold the left stick up or down, and you can see we're able to drag this route to whatever depth on the field we want it to be at. One of the most common mistakes we see people make is not stepping up in the pocket when throwing the ball. what you see a lot of people do is they'll say hike, and then they're going to back up, and that's going to allow those defensive ends to disengage, and it actually makes it a harder throw on your quarterback as well. So what we want to do when we are throwing is we want to say hike, we want to stay in this pocket, step up, and that's going to give us plenty of time to make the read down the field and pick up those big yards. A few other mistakes we see people make a lot when throwing the ball is either taking too many sacks or throwing the ball into tight situations and throwing interceptions they don't need to throw, and to avoid that, you simply want to throw the ball away. What you're going to do is when you say hike, when you're behind the line of scrimmage, if you click the right stick in at any time, it's going to throw that ball out of bounds and allow you to get to that next down without making a big mistake. Now, some people are concerned if they do that, they will get an intentional grounding penalty. To avoid intentional grounding, all you need to do is put any receiver on either a flat route or a smoke screen, and now when you say hike, and you go to throw that away, it's always going to throw it over that receiver's head to allow you to avoid that penalty. When it comes to running the football, there's a few things we're going to talk about, but this first to me is the most important in becoming a better runner at this game, and that's knowing when to push the sprint button. A lot of people push that sprint button as soon as they get the ball, but that's hurting you for two reasons. First, it's going to make it harder for you to make cuts with your running back, and then secondly, it's going to allow the defensive players to get off their blocks sooner. So what we want to do is when we say hike, we want to avoid holding sprint until we have made the cuts we want to get into the open field, and we don't have to worry about those blockers around us anymore. So again, one more time, when we say hike, we're not going to push sprint until we've made those necessary cuts, and that's when we want to push that right trigger button to get to that open space, but you do want to avoid it until you are in the open field. Another key tip at getting better at running the football is understanding the box count or the hat count. And what that means is you want to understand how many defenders there are in the box to the side you're running versus how many blockers you have. So for instance, in this situation, we're running this ball to the left. We want to count how many defenders are left of our center. So we're going to have the 2 defensive linemen and that left of screen middle linebacker. So that's 3 defenders. Now we're going to have our center, our left guard, and our left tackle. And we actually have the fullback on this one as well. So we have 4 blockers to their 3 defenders to the left side of the screen. So that tells us we have the numbers advantage. We should go ahead and say hike, and you're going to see we're going to be able to have a successful run play there. Now, if they have the advantage and they have more people on that side of the ball than you do, that's when you don't want to do it. So for instance, if they shift their line left and they're standing here with their user, if we're running it to the left, this is a situation where we don't want to do that because they now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people left of the center. We only have 4 blockers. So if we would go to run this, now we don't have the ability to block everybody in the box, and that's going to be detrimental to our run game. Now, this next tip when running the football may seem like it's a very simple tip, but there are a lot of people in the community who don't know how to do this, and we're talking about flipping our run play. So for instance, if we come out on this look here where we're running a stretch to the right, but we see that they may have the numbers advantage to that right side, we talked about the hat count in that last tip, and we want to run this to the left. Instead of flipping your entire formation, all you need to do is flick your right stick to the way you want to run. So if we flick the right stick to the left, it's now going to put that stretch to the left side of the field, and that's going to allow us to run where the defenders are not and allow us to pick up a much bigger gain than we may have if we were running that ball to the right side of the field. When it comes to defending the run on the defensive side of the ball, understanding your run fits is key. To pull up your run fits, if you hold the right trigger and push X, it'll show you the run fits to the left. If you push B, it'll show you the run fits to the right. Now, if you do look at this, you're going to see that these are the gaps our defensive players are responsible for if the run goes to that specific side. So you can see with our user, we're responsible for that left tackle, left guard gap, or that left of screen B gap. Now, it's very important you fill that gap because we need to be here because we're the only defender that'll go there. So if we run over here to start the play, that's going to leave our gap wide open and really leave us vulnerable in the run game. Now you can also see there's an F defender and a C defender. The F is going to be our force defender and he will force the ball back to the middle of the field. And the C is our cutback and he's just making sure that running back is not able to cut back to the weak side of the field. Now let's talk about our defensive coaching adjustments. To bring them up, you want to click the right stick in. We already talked about auto flip defensive play call earlier. Auto alignment, we either want set to base or default. I personally use default, but there are defenses that do work a little bit better if you come out base aligned. Cornerback matchups, we want that on balance. Do not change this. Option defense, conservative. That allows our team to take care of the quarterback and we can focus on the running back on option plays. Strip ball and tackling, I actually like to use conservative here because this is for the AI defenders to better make tackles. If I want to hit stick or if I want to strip the ball, I can click on and do that myself. And then these last 3 are going to be our zone drops. And these we can either leave default or we can change them to certain depths depending on the defense. And that actually leads us into our next tip. One of the most popular route concepts every single year is a flood concept, where people have a streak, a corner, and a flat going to the same side of the field. Now, one of the best coverages to defend this is what we call Mabel coverage. To set up Mabel coverage, you want to put your flats on 30 and your curl flats on either 5 or 0, and then we're going to come out in a cover 2 style defense. Now, your opponent's going to be running the flood concept to whatever side of the field they have the 3 receiving threats. Now, what we want to do is that side of the field, we want to put our yellow zone on a purple to create this double flat to the right side of the field with that deep defender over the top. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to have a defender shallow and deep to defend both the flat route and the corner route, really making it hard for your opponent to attack the sidelines. Now, before we do go any further, I do want to let you know about a sale we're running right now over at HuddleGG, which is the best deal you're going to find on any tip site for either college football or Madden. From now until the end of August, our pro subscription for the site is 50% off, and you get to keep that price for as long as you remain an active subscriber. So if you lock in your subscription at that $9.95 monthly rate, you'll have that pro subscription at that specific rate for as long as you stay active. There isn't a better deal in the tip space that you're going to find, and I do want to highlight one of the advantages to our pro subscription with our offensive coordinator tool. This is a tool that isn't found anywhere else in the community, and it'll help you always be in the right play regardless of what your opponent is running. You simply select the coverage on the right side of the screen, and it'll populate the best plays in that game plan to attack those specific coverages. Again, this is just one of the many benefits to our pro level subscription and something you don't want to miss out on. So head over to HuddleGG today to claim this offer. One of the bigger skill gaps we see each year between average and high level players is the ability to user over the middle of the field. And the first step in becoming a better user is picking the right guy. Now, this year linebackers do animate, so we can either use a linebacker or a safety, but we're looking for the same thing in each of them. What we want is somebody who has good height and then who has good physical attributes like speed, agility, acceleration, change of direction, and jumping. Now, the second point to usering is something I may catch a little bit of heat for, but you need to get off of the defensive line. I know it may be fun, I know you may think you're good at it, but you are putting yourself at a disadvantage for one key reason, and that is as a user over the middle with a linebacker, you can take away multiple routes on a given play, whereas the AI cannot. So if you're putting yourself on the defensive line, you're making it so your AI can only defend one route, and that's putting you at a disadvantage. Now, the last thing when it comes to usering is you need to understand your responsibility. So for instance, in this cover 2 scheme here, we're responsible for this right of screen hook zone curl with this right of screen linebacker. Now, if we completely bail out and leave that area, we're going to open up a wide open space for them to complete passes and move the ball easily down the field. One of the biggest additions EA made to the game this year, and what I believe may be the best addition they've made ever in the franchise's history, is the switch stick on defense. Now, what we do to use the switch stick is when we are defending the pass, we can switch between any coverage defender simply by flicking the right stick in the direction of the player we want to switch to. Now, for instance, if we see that the offense is running a route concept like this, where they're running to the flat and we're using this right of screen player, what you'll see is as soon as I see that running back going to the flat, instead of chasing him with my user, I'll just flick the stick to the right of screen corner, and now I can go down and defend that myself without having to run out of position with my original player. Now, the one thing that you do want to make sure you're aware of is once you switch stick off of a player, he's going to go back to his original position. So for instance, if you're running over here with the yellow and you switch stick off of him, he is going to rotate back to where he was supposed to be to start the play. That is just something you do want to be aware of when you are using the switch stick. Now, we understand that the switch stick is not for everybody, but there is an easy way to make sure you can't use the switch stick in the game, even once you've already started. And what we want to do is we want to blitz our user. Now, the reason why this works is you can only switch stick from one coverage defender to another coverage defender, and a blitzer is not considered a coverage defender. So if you pay attention to this middle of the field linebacker here, if they say hike, I'm going to flick the right stick every which direction I can, and you're going to see it did not switch me off that player at all. So if you don't want to use the switch stick throughout a game or even on a given play, just make sure you blitz that user before the snap. If you want to get better on defense in Madden, you need to learn how to use your quick adjustments because they're going to allow you to adjust anyone on the field without having to actually click on that player pre-snap. Now, if you look in the bottom left, we have the ability to change our defensive line, linebackers, or secondary with the D-pad and the Y. So if we push Y for our secondary, it's going to say Y again for quick adjust, and then that's going to bring up these icons above our defensive backs' heads. If we pick one of those icons, it's now going to give us that individual player's assignments based off his given position. Now, let's say for instance we start out in this Tampa 2 and we want to put the middle linebacker on a deep middle third, the safeties in outside thirds, the left of screen defensive tackle in a QB spy, and a QB contain. That seems like a lot of adjustments, and some people tell us, oh, we can't do that before the snap, but I promise you if you get these quick adjustments down, you can, and I'll show you how. So again, you can see we're in a Tampa 2 defense here. If we adjust, we're going to be able to, right there in about 2.5 seconds, I was able to change this entire defense to a completely different look simply by using my quick adjustments. EA added a really cool new feature this year to allow us to disguise our coverage on the defensive side of the ball in a couple of ways, and the first way is going to be before we pick our play. Now when we're in any formation, if you see that right stick at the bottom, if we move it left or right, it's going to show us different coverage shells we can come out in. So let's say that we want to play cover 3 sky, but we want to come out in a cover 2 shell. So before we pick cover 3 sky, we want to cycle over to cover 2, and then we want to pick our cover 3 sky play. And what you'll see now is when we come out in the play, it looks like we're in a cover 2 pre-snap, but if we look at the play art, we're still calling that cover 3 sky that we wanted to come out in. The second way that you can disguise your coverage shell is actually pre-snap. So here we just came out in a default shell with our cover 4 quarters, but let's say we want to change that. If you push the Y button in the bottom left, you can see that we now have the option to either show 2 or show 3. So let's say we want to show 3 and show that one high look. So if we go to show 3, you'll see that the defense will rotate to a cover 3 style look, but if we look at the play art, we're still in that original cover 4 quarters play that we called. Another mechanic that people forget to take advantage of is the ability to change their packages. Now you can do this on the offense or the defensive side of the ball, and what you want to do is before you pick a formation, you want to move the right stick left or right, and you can see that it will change the package. Now what this does is it switches or changes our personnel, but it can also change our individual players' adjustments. For instance, if you look at these two different sets of adjustments, they're both for the strong safety, but the one on the left is for the strong safety in the default package, and the one on the right is for the strong safety in the free safety 1 inside package. So it's the same player, but he's going to have different adjustments based off the package we come out in. Picking up blitzes and being comfortable in the pocket are both keys in becoming a better offensive player, and EA's new blocking system allows us to do just that, and this is my absolute favorite addition to the game. Now what you want to do to bring up your blocking is hold the left bumper, and the first thing you're going to notice is it now shows us who everybody's going to block. The red lines show that that's going to be a one-on-one block, and the blue lines show they're going to first double team that defensive tackle, and then one of them will work their way up to that Mike linebacker if they need to. If you pay attention to the bottom right side of the screen, we also have new pass protection adjustments. If you see the left side, we have empty, base, and then we have a full slide left and a full slide right. And then on the right side, we have half slide left, half slide right, and then double team and max protect, which those two we've had in years past, and we can still ID the mic with the A button. The last thing I want to point your attention to, and it's the coolest thing to me, is the left of screen slot defender with the flame icon above his head. That's telling us that that's our hot read. What does that mean? That means that that defender is going to be unblocked. Nobody is responsible for him. So as the quarterback, if he blitzes, we need to know to get rid of the ball quickly. So what you're going to see here is if we say hike and we see that guy blitzing, we know we have to throw the ball fairly quick because we have an unblocked defender coming at our quarterback. Our last tip is in regards to play calling and really trying to put a focus on calling your plays by formation. A lot of newer players use coach suggestions, but that heavily limits your access to the full playbook, and it also makes it very difficult to set up plays throughout the game because the options in coach suggestions tend to be fairly random. So you want to make it a habit of calling your plays by formation, and that's going to give you the ability to really open up your playbook. If you've made it to the end of this video, that means you're serious about becoming a better Madden player, and that's exactly what we're here for. Make sure to click on the link in our pinned comment or go to HuddleGG/Discord to join our community with thousands of members who all share that same goal of wanting to get better at Madden. The Discord is completely free, so don't miss out on this opportunity and join today.